Well, if you go to beermaker.com/water, you can see how much. We have about 22 grams per bottle. So
Okay, that's the first question. About 22 grams per bottle, with the most heavily included.
Probably about 2 to 3 grams is the heaviest.
But that's also what, Epsom salt?
And we'll sell refills for like $2 or something.
Live? All right, welcome everybody to the first inaugural Beer Maker Office Hours. I'm Brett.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
And we're gonna do this office hours about once a month. The whole point of this is basically to give us an opportunity to chat with you guys, maybe kind of go into some more long form stuff about whether it's capabilities of the machine itself, some different functionality it has or whatever it might be, and then also gives you guys the chance to ask some questions that may have some longer answers. So we're gonna talk about all sorts of things. We've got some ideas. We've been kind of watching the BOG, the Beer Maker Owners Group, and obviously also our customer service emails. So we've got a list, but if you have any suggestions of topics that you guys want to cover in future Office Hours episodes, please shoot us an email at support@beermaker.com. So today, we're going to talk about water. As you guys may have already noticed, today we launched our Beer Maker Water Chemistry Kit. That's available in the store today. And I'm certainly not an expert here, so I'm going to let Matt and Aaron do most of the talking. I'm just going to ask some questions. But first things first, what's everybody drinking?
I'm drinking a James Marsden. No, I'm drinking our Marsden.
Marsden.
It's the Marsden.
I've been spelling and pronouncing this incorrectly for the last couple months. So it's pretty good. It's light, not very alcoholic, not strong, but it's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty yummy. We'll go into a little bit about how water impacts this thing later, but also drinking the Marsden, which is an Oktoberfest. It's that time of year. Apologies for releasing the Oktoberfest kind of towards the end of the festivities, but I think it'll be worth it with the water stuff.
And I'm drinking a bit of a test batch here. This is a double mashed Maharaja Imperial IPA. Bit of a sneak peek at maybe what's coming in the next month or so. But this one, it's our first double mash. It's coming in at like 10 some change ABV. So pretty strong, pretty big body, but a ton of hop character. Really, really nice beer. So water, back to water. So we launched, like I said, our Beer Maker Water Chemistry Kit. Rolls right off the tongue. And so what is the big deal with water? Like, it's just water. We're brewing beer, right?
Yeah, pretty much just water. No.
Okay, good.
It's no. So water. If you guys saw the video earlier today, I talked about how water makes up 90% of the beer, and the mineral content of that water matters. And if a good way to think about it is, if you've ever had a cup of tap water from your house and you go on a trip somewhere and you drink the tap water there, they taste totally different. You may prefer one or the other, but water has a big impact on what the final product is. The minerals interact with things too.
Yeah. When I do this, I don't know a ton about beer. I don't know if everybody knows I don't know a ton about beer, but I don't know a ton about making beer. Aaron's taught me everything I know. Whenever I think about sort of like those bagel places that import water from like New York City or whatever when they're trying to make their special types of bagels, and that's always what sticks with me for water. So
yeah, well, secret on that, they just use water adjustments, which we'll be talking about.
So you're telling me, believe it or not, here that water from different areas is different. So what exactly is different about them?
So it's the mineral load and the various ions that make up that water. They are all different. They react with the components of beer differently. They react with the mash differently. They react with your hops differently. They react with the yeast and provide different levels of nutrients to the yeast. So in short, it's everything. I mean, the beer will be different if you put different minerals into your water.
So what are some of these minerals? What is literally different about the water? What are these components?
So the major components, at least of our water kit, are gypsum, Epsom salt, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Then there's table salt, not table salt, but canning salt. And that's a type of salt that doesn't have the iodine in it or any of those anti-caking agents. There's a stuff called calcium chloride, and that is, you don't really want to touch it because it's exothermic.
Isn't that calcium sulfate?
That's right. It is calcium sulfate. Calcium chloride is the opposite. That's just Tums or
gypsum.
Yeah.
So are there areas of the world that have distinct and special and unique waters?
Yeah, probably the most unique area there are two. There's the Gosa region in Germany that's very, very salty. So all those beers come out with this like salty sourness to them, and it's all about the water. So that's super cool. Then there's also Burton-on-Trent. It's another really famous example.
Where's that?
It's in England.
Okay.
So Burton-on-Trent in England
It's Jersey.
is where the original IPAs came from, and it has a huge amount of sulfate in their water, which produces these very crisp, bitter, assertive bitterness to the hops. So those beers do really well with that kind of mixture. Another one, Munich, Germany. It's very classic in terms of brewing a beer like this Märzen.
So is it just a coincidence that you launched the Märzen and the water kit on the same day?
At all. So some history on this Oktoberfest Märzen that we just launched. We actually had this in the works since last spring, but and during recipe development, we like to take commercial examples of our beer and compare them against what we just produced. And we went through iteration after iteration and all different sorts of malts and hops and yeasts, and we just couldn't match like a polliner. So we ended up just tabling it. We kind of missed the season, we felt like, and we started focusing on some other beers, some yummy Belgians, and then came back to it after getting onto this water kit development. Big part. Well, so if you guys aren't aware, tangential. Christian, who won the gold medal with his beer, he used water adjustments, and that was a big reason that he was saying why his beer was able to come out exactly as he wanted to. So, and after talking with him, he's really pushing us to do some form of water chemistry adjustment, and we started working with it, and then it was funny. Like I brewed the same recipe of this Märzen that we'd been brewing for months, but with the Munich water profile, and it was immediately just like it was locked in. That is a Märzen from Munich.
So is it normal for home brewers and craft breweries to adjust their water when they're brewing?
Yes. So to a certain extent. Okay. Craft breweries for sure. What a lot of people will do is get a water report from their local utility, or they'll get their water tested. Most breweries will do this, and advanced home brewers like to do this, and then they can add things to essentially these minerals to their existing water to build out their water profile. But that's a really advanced topic, and you have to really be into that as a home brewer, and it can take a while to get there. So what we're excited about doing with our water kit is lowering that barrier of entry to getting really great water profiles, so you can produce beers that are authentic to a region, or at the very least produce beers that hit a profile that perhaps the water you have at your house is not quite there.
So I buy this water kit. I'm relatively new to this whole brewing thing. Do I have to use it every time? Is it a requirement to make good beer? What's the deal?
No. So you definitely don't have to use this. If you're making great beer right now, you don't need to do anything. If you've struggled with some particular like over hardness, or if you have some just general issues that you've had with the flavor profile of your beer, and if you can trace that back to water, then absolutely this is something that will help a lot with that.
Cool.
But really, you should do this if you are on a mission to replicate something.
So this is someone who's really trying to make that authentic, Bavarian style Märzen, or maybe they're trying to replicate some of their favorite, homebrew, or not homebrews, but craft beers out of Chico or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm gonna ask a question actually about this beer, because you kind of went back and forth. You've been using the words Märzen, and Oktoberfest almost interchangeably.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about what the hell that means?
Yes. So Oktoberfest is just an old Märzen. So back in the olden days in Bavarian brewing, they would create these Märzen beers in March. It was still cold enough to get good fermentations with lager yeast, and they would brew a whole bunch of it and drink it over the summer. In 1810, there was a prince of Bavaria who got married, and it was this huge celebration, and they brought all of the leftover Märzen out of their stores and drank it in a huge party in the streets for a few days. And that was the first Oktoberfest. And then, so as the years went by and this Oktoberfest continued happening, they kept, they kept brewing the Märzen, and they kept drinking all of it by fall, and with this huge party, and then eventually it just became known as Oktoberfest.
Yeah, here in the States we call it Oktoberfest beer, but if I was, in Munich, lederhosened up, I'd be drinking a Märzen.
That's right.
Okay, it's just aged and conditioned.
That's right.
How does aging and conditioning work in the beer maker unit?
So, aging and conditioning happens a couple ways. You can let it sit in your beer maker, but then it capitalizes your beer maker. So we would recommend, if you want to age it, to either bottle it, put it into a keg of some sort, or put it in your beer tap and put it in the fridge and don't touch it for a while.
Can I just leave a bag of fermented beer in my fridge by itself for a long period of time?
You can, but it's best to leave it to about a month if you're going to do that.
Okay.
If you
So I don't have to worry about that thing fermenting or exploding after the fact.
No, but keep an eye on it, because I've had some beers in there that puff up a little bit.
Okay.
And if it starts puffing up, you should get it in your beer tap.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, that doesn't usually happen until 3 or 4 weeks in.
All right. Let's you mind walking me through what comes in the beautiful beer maker water chemistry kit?
Yeah, so here's our water chemistry kit. Inside this guy, first off, here's a little QR code right here and a web address. So you scan that and it will load up water profiles that are tuned for your beer maker. So we're going to keep working on this page over time, but right now it's got a standard 6.5 liter recipe, and you can add these in with the amounts that are on that page depending on the profile you're going for. You can get Dortmund, you can go for Burton-on-Trent, you can go for Munich, you can go for any of these other places.
And are you guys going to recommend the water for existing recipes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you'll be able to go to that page. It's not there today, but it will be within the next day or two.
Cool.
We're going to have all of, if you want to brew a chubby, we'll suggest the right profile for chubby.
All right. So then what do I get in the kit?
All right. So we have Epsom salt. We have gypsum. We have canning salt. We've got some baking soda. We have chalk. And we have calcium chloride.
And these are essentially all the chemicals that you find present in the variety of waters all over the world.
Exactly. So these are the building blocks of water.
Okay.
So each one of these will do different things to the ion load of your water. And it's super, super important when you are doing any of this water stuff is to start with reverse osmosis, distilled or deionized water. You got to get all of the minerals out of the water before you start.
So you're working with like a clean slate.
Exactly. If you wanted to get your own water profile from a test lab, good on you. Go for it, and you can. There are plenty of calculators out there that'll help you do that. But for beer maker purposes, we're recommending you start with RO and you just build it up from scratch. So, next up in our kit, we've got a bunch of these little weighing trays. These are incredibly light boats that are they're anti-static, so you should be able to just put it in, give it a quick flick. You can rinse them off and put them back in your case and use it again. We have a fine gram scale, and this guy measures to 1/100th of a gram or a milligram. So all of the measurements are in 1/100ths measures on our suggested water page. So pay attention to those. You don't want to go over. If you go over a little bit or under a little bit, it's not going to matter too much, but don't go like an extra gram on anything because that's really going to throw you off. And then we have a teeny little scoop.
That's adorable.
It's so tiny. Right, so this, I believe this is 2.5 milligram up here, something like that. 2.5 milligram, this is a 1 milligram. So, ideally when you are pouring these things, you'll take them out, and you'll pour this in, and then as it comes in, you'll take your scooper and you'll just kind of scoop it out depending and try to get the right weight for it.
Okay. And then, let's see.
Put this back in.
About how many beers worth of salts and gypsum and everything are you guys giving me in this kit?
On average, we're probably looking at 20 to 30.
And that's the, what is that, the bottleneck here? Like, is that the most used one, or?
I would say that's the average. Let's say if you do all Burton-on-Trent, you're going to need 6 grams of gypsum for each one of those. And each one of these bottles holds about 22 grams, or in the pill bottle world, these are called 6-dram bottles, which is about 22 grams worth. And so this will last about 4 batches if you're doing 4 Burton-on-Trent IPAs. But we do have refills of these for like a couple bucks.
So you guys are going to sell more of the gypsum?
Yeah, easy
So I'm
peasy.
just going to crush Burton on Trent.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right, and also fun fact: this is the stuff you find in drywall. I'm not.
Well, I got a ton of that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sweet.
Crush it.
Let's see. Now, I got this sweet kit. How is my beer making process going to differ from what it was yesterday? Like, how many extra steps? What's kind of the process?
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna first find what water profile you want to use, and then you're gonna say, okay, I need 0.7 grams of Epsom salt, 0.5 grams of chalk, 0.1 gram of like canning salt, whatever it happens to be. You measure that out and you just pour it in your water pitcher, fill it up a little bit,
Okay.
mix it, and then before you pour it into your brew tub, make sure there are no grains in your brew tub. You go start empty. This is the water filling step. And you're going to fill up just the brew tub. You're not going to have the bag connected. So we're going to fill up the first water addition with all of your minerals mixed in, and then you're going to do your second water addition in your brew tub as well, and that will mix all of those minerals together.
So normally I put in about, call it 3,000 milliliters of water. I put my grains in, and then I put the other water in, and I'm watching that water go through the whole system.
Right.
This time you want me to disconnect the white valve from the gray valve right under the brew tub.
Right.
Fill that whole thing up with all the water I need in my beer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we got all the kind of chemistry, whatever the hell
Exactly.
you're talking about, up in the brew tub, connect it, and it's going to rush down together.
Yes, that's exactly
Bingo.
right.
And then we put our grains in.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm seeing a lot of questions in the comments. Very few of them are water related. Before I jump into non-water related questions, does anyone have any water related questions? And I'm not going to start answering some other questions because no one's going to type that fast. Trail Rider Chris, what's up, man? We have a potential buyer out there asking a bunch of good questions. So he's asking about cleaning, and thanks, Jake. Cleaning is actually super straightforward. We're getting some mixed answers here, but we just have folks being extra clean. Essentially, you can put all the brew tub, your valves, everything right in the dishwasher. You actually technically don't need to use PBW or any sort of sanitizing agent to clean out the system. You can actually just put everything in your dishwasher. But we got a lot of brewers in here who just old habits die hard, and frankly, there's no harm in a little bit of extra sanitation and making sure everything is clean. But for the most part, we attempted to make this thing as straightforward and easy as possible. I've only ever just tossed everything in the dishwasher.
So
brew step, how does it clean it?
So the brewers in the group are they have reason to say PBW, but we also think it's way easier, convenient, and don't think that the extra effort's worth it particularly. So the reason why you would want to use PBW from a brewer's perspective is there are surfactants in some dishwashing detergents.
Okay.
So things like Jet Dry, and that can reduce your head retention on your beer. That said, I haven't seen that be a real issue.
Trail Rider Chris doesn't have a dishwasher. So one big point there is, you can just scrub it clean, you can use soap, rinse it out. But the fact is when we go through the brewing step, it actually pasteurizes the interior of the entire machine.
Yep.
So in that process, it kind of cleans itself. But Aaron does make a point where you got some weird chemicals in a lot of these soaps that may do something to your beer, but
Yep.
I don't know.
So what
if
is
you
it?
do put it in the dishwasher, top rack only. Don't put it on the bottom rack. Don't put it on the bottom rack. Sorry, I'm farther from the mic.
Why?
Why, Matt?
Because the bottom rack in some dishwashers gets a lot hotter, and you don't want the brew tub or the lid or the valves to warp under the increased temperature.
That's a great suggestion.
So just
I've never done that. I've been bottom racking this thing all day.
proper use is top rack. I mean, it depends on the dishwasher, but in general, it's safest to do top rack.
Yeah, so we have one of these fancy, I wouldn't call it fancy, it's a Craigslist Bosch at our warehouse, and it has the heating elements are like in the tubing of it, so like doesn't matter. Like I stacked that thing so full of brew tubs, like 5, 10 at a time. Probably not 10, maybe 5, 5 or 6.
All right, and we got Justin asked, when can we expect the water profiles for all the kits to be up? He's basically just asking, how much time does Aaron have to do his homework?
Let's hope by this time tomorrow.
We were hoping to have them up like now.
Yeah.
But we'll get those up. We will have them up before you get your kits.
Yeah, just a note. I don't know if everybody reads the descriptions, but they're not shipping out tomorrow. We're still packing things.
Yeah.
So they're going to start shipping at the earliest on Friday.
Turns out it takes a lot of time to pack these little bottles. And we're doing these by hand right now, so.
I'm also, Colin, just going to thank Matt and Aaron for being such wonderful resources.
Oh, thanks, Colin.
No, these dudes, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but there aren't a lot of us here. We're a new company, working our asses off. Poor Matt, Aaron, myself, we all have little babies at home. And
Jake, you should come around here.
yeah, Jake say what up. He makes things beautiful.
Yeah.
We appreciate that you appreciate that we don't sleep so much.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are you guys going to get into a pH adjustment?
Well,
Explain.
now, yes. So there is a lot of really awesome stuff to do with pH. The first thing is to go for essentially the DIPHs of the grains themselves, building that into the recipe builder template. So what that does is effectively give you a projected pH of your batch based on the grains that you're using. And that can allow you, with the residual alkalinity that is generated based on our water adjustments, to make that call of what kind of pH you're looking for. Generally speaking, you know, when it comes to pH, obviously it's really important. And the reason why we haven't done a ton of pH stuff is our, you know, the system, given that incredibly long mash step, we go through these acidification rests. And we actually have a pretty decent pH. I haven't seen pHs out of that 2 or 5.2 to 5.5 range yet. And, you know, I've tried a lot of different water profiles and worked with a lot of brewers who have pH systems as well. So because we're pretty tight in that range, we haven't put a lot of emphasis on pH yet. That said, if you will notice, we do have acid malt in our Pilsner. So
yes.
a little bit.
Kind of.
Yeah. Also, we're a small team. We hand pack a lot of stuff. So if we're going to be making a pH kit, we're going to have acids and bases and pH tests in there.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how to do that logistically as well.
Safely.
Yeah, safely.
Yeah, we don't want to burn Maggie.
Trail Rider Chris says, does it include regions like Vermont?
Oh, wow.
Not yet.
That's awesome.
I don't know.
Do you have an ion profile for Vermont you'd like us to suggest?
So what's kind of cool about this, Mr. Trail Rider, is that it's relatively straightforward. If we could get some volunteers to get some testing on their, call it tap water or municipal water or whoever's servicing the water of a given region, once you get that report, we can map it out and we can mimic pretty much anything with these salts.
We have unlimited rows on our table on the website, so we can put all of them in. So just, send us requests. It was fun. Like today, I found from like the mid 90s some remote PDF that had some home brewers from Belgium who found the water profiles for like the four big Trappist monastery breweries. So I'm really excited about that. And they're all all of them are within a pretty tight range except for one that's like fucking triple all the others.
So we basically have, this is like, we can nerd out super hard in terms of, you can pinpoint Belgian Trappist monasteries.
Oh yeah, no, we can. We can
dry hop the shit out of it.
Oh
You'll
yeah,
never
exactly.
See what's coming.
Dry hop chimay.
All right. Somebody asks, can you remove the lid of the brew tub? And that's why I brought this prop out. Yeah, you can just karate chop that thing, and then it pops right back in. So there are these little hinges. Matt's probably like cringing.
No,
I karate chop it every time, and then you can pop it back in. So yeah, I've used I put the lid in like a plate, put the brew tub up in the top chamber. Every time. Home filter instead of RI. Anybody, I don't know, live questions? We've run out of content.
We can start talking about Star Wars again.
Yeah.
Wait, home filter versus RO?
No, someone just said, hey guys. Oh! What's going on with the hop filter?
What is going on with the hop filter, Matt?
So we have a design for it.
Before we get there, the beer that Brett's drinking.
Not anymore.
Well, I'm gonna go get some of that.
Yeah.
That beer.
There was one over there actually.
You need a hop filter to make.
Yeah. Hop filter is
Duck
very
on the boom
close
mic.
to being finished. We have a working prototype. We have working prototypes that are not what I like. Basically, the problem that I'm working on right now is making sure I get the right mesh for the material. We have a specific wire thickness and specific opening size. And last time they sent me my first 2 samples, they sent me the wrong wire thickness. Even though the drawing specifically listed one, they misunderstood it. And they finally have the right wire size, but now they're telling me it's going to be harder to find the right hole size for it.
Long story short, it's weird that they can't find mesh that's right, but that's it.
Someone asked about availability and estimates. Availability is we've got like 6 of them. So no, sorry, not yet. But we intend to launch the hop filter along with that lovely Maharaja double mashed IPA. So it'll be kind of a new process step, but then also the hop filter in there to make sure that one comes out nice and clean.
Speaking of new process steps,
It's incredible.
since we have everybody here,
Mike, Matt.
the pumpkin beer is the first one we're doing this with, but it has a grain removal step.
Oh, that's a great thing to talk about.
Yeah, so it has a step where it's optional. It'll time out if you don't do it, but you should remove the grains when you get told to do it. It might have been a little confusing because we didn't mention it before we launched it.
We messed up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Really, yeah, we just kind of, we launched it and we thought we had the recipe updated and then we didn't check it before it went out and then we realized that there weren't these notifications in there and then we updated the notifications and then because we added a couple steps of notifications in the program, the machine thought it was on a different step. It was a whole thing.
I think that was for Matt.
But
Yeah.
Sup, Laney?
Hi.
That's Matt's
so wait,
wife.
let's
Matt's
go
wife,
back
by
to
the way.
that I just gave the double guns to. Let's go back to this grain removal. Why?
So, comes down to water,
Okay.
1 part.
Oh.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I know. So depending on the pH of your water, if it's very alkaline, you can begin breaking down part of the husks of the grains and pulling them into your malt, your wort. And if you do that, it's going to have this extra grainy taste. It doesn't happen with all beers. In fact, darker beers are generally lower pH mashes, so it pretty much doesn't happen with those. But the lighter the beer is, the more of this kind of overall grainy taste you can get if you happen to have water that reacts this way. So by putting in a grain removal step, we're reducing or even eliminating the possibility of that happening for you. And but the right way to think about it is that it just makes the beer taste a little bit better.
So you're saying put your grains in, brew comes up to temp, holds for about, 2-3 hours at 160?
Yeah, 2.5.
2.5 hours. you remove your grains.
Yeah.
Remove the squeeze bar.
Yep.
Let that wort flow down into the brew bag, and it's going to cool back down to pitch temp.
Yep.
So what if I'm asleep?
That's great. I wish I could sleep more. That said, how I like setting it up is I'll set up my brew before I go to bed, and when I wake up in the morning, it will be that right grain removal step, and I'll pull it out. If I set up my brew around like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I get that grain removal step, it'll be in the middle of the night. To your point, right?
Yes.
So all that means is when you wake up in the morning, you'll see the notification on your phone saying remove your grain. Just go remove it and hit the button, and it will continue cooling to pitch, and then we'll send you a notification when it's time to pitch, probably a couple hours later. That said, there is a window on our grain removal. So if you don't remove the grain in 6 hours, it'll just go to the next step. And it'll say, all right, you're not around, or you're asleep, or whatever, so we'll just wait until yeast pitch.
So you'll basically just brew it like you did yesterday.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's see. Trail Rider Chris. If I were to use correct me if I'm wrong here, say you're using like a Brita or something, does that get your water to that kind of effective 0?
No. So what Brita does, it's pretty much just a charcoal filter, and it removes some smells, it removes a little bit of chlorine, but it doesn't remove other things like fluoride, it doesn't remove any of the minerals or ions.
Okay, so it's not getting you to that like bare water foundation that we want to build on top of.
No. So you can't use Brita, you've got to go for that RO, or reverse osmosis system. That's really the only thing you can do in your house is reverse osmosis.
But at the same time, Mr. Trail Rider, this is an optional step.
Yes.
So far, we've had really awesome results. We only started using this kind of water adjustment kit in our own brew lab
random
like
warehouse
2 months
water.
ago. Yeah, we're in Colorado, so our water is probably worth testing.
It's actually it's pretty good. I mean, we're not in we're the Animas River where they dumped all that mine stuff.
No. Okay. Radon? No.
What was, I don't know.
Anyways.
It turned the water green and orange, and it was really gross.
And if you have that water profile, let us know, and we'll make it for you.
Okay.
Animas River sludge.
Colin Doyle, what's up, man? We got some "Are you making blank kits?" questions. Hazy kits.
Oh man, I'm so excited about this. Yes.
But we already have one technically.
We have one, right? But there will be more.
Okay.
And once this comes out, all right. So this is the key to IPAs on this system. Like once this comes out, there will be floodgates of IPAs opened.
For anyone cooking dinner and not watching, he's using the hop filter. So if we want to go crazy hop, crazy hazy, then we need this hop filter to not plug all the valves in the machine.
So that is like just a bottleneck on our side. Once this comes out, we have lots of really awesome IPAs we're going to be releasing. But until then, our future, as good as the beer as that is, a lot of people get clogged valves and interaction of hops.
All right, next beer, Belgium Quad.
Oh man, well we just released a triple. What more do you want? A quad.
Jesus, Colin.
That's fine. No, we should do a quad would be great. And the reason why the reason why we stopped with triple was because of the double mash. We didn't have that double mash program developed yet. We have released double mash as a program on the DIY side, kind of manual DIY. So if you want to do a double mash, you just send an email to me or Matt at Support a Beer Maker, and we'll send a double mash program to your beer maker. You can let us know how it works. So it's kind of beta right now. But that said, to get to that quad level, you got to do double mash.
Okay. All right.
Next.
In due time, Colin. Cider.
Oh, man.
I have actually made a cider on the system.
Was it good, Matt?
It was pretty good. It was, I made it from scratch. My wife is in the chats apparently, and so she...
No, that was your daughter, apparently.
Oh, my daughter.
Avery's in there?
So it's
Okay,
looking
she's
good,
still
man.
awake. Okay.
She's only 3.
She's only 3, so she has not drank too much of the cider. But no, my wife actually had a whole lot of apples sitting around, and she pureed them and juiced them, and we put them all in there. And it was like a whole bag of apples, and there wasn't enough, so we ended up having to get some juice as well. So we mixed all that stuff in. I put some cinnamon in, and then I put I can't remember which yeast. I think I used a cider yeast. Which,
it was the Saf cider.
Yes.
Saf cider. I can't remember which number. They've changed their naming conventions, but yeah, they've got.
It was
cider yeasts.
ridiculously strong and very hidden. So it probably wasn't the right yeast.
So Matt didn't brew with a refractometer. He didn't know what sugar content it was, so he could have been up to like 15%.
Matt got red face before he drove.
It was
So.
really, really strong, and it did not taste like anything. Like, I mean, it didn't taste like alcohol. Like, it was really, really mild flavor. Like, there was the cinnamon aftertaste. There's a bit of apple, but most of the sugar was fermented off.
So
And, yeah.
So I mean, this is 2 parts, right? Can beer maker make cider 100%?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we going to sell you a big jug of unpasteurized apple juice? We don't know yet. We would probably prefer. I mean, that's like one of those things. It's like it costs too much to buy ship. So like, what we can probably do is put together some sort of recommended path. I mean, right now in Boulder, like, there's bears just eating apples and pears left and right here. So it's apple and pear season. We should probably give it a go.
Yeah.
But if it's apple and pear season where you live, we can probably put some blog content together that kind of explains how you might put that together.
Yeah. Same thing with mead and other ones like that.
Well, mead, we're in the wine family, and we got scolded. Not scolded, schooled.
Yeah.
At a beer fest recently. That's a year process.
Well,
but
I was talking to a guy at the Breckenridge Oktoberfest last weekend, and I told him, like, yeah, you can do meads, it can ferment, but you probably want to transfer into bottles. Which actually, can you toss me that thing? So this is fun.
there was a question in here earlier about transferring to bottles and growlers. We're working through some options right now to try to kind of present what we think is the best case, but we got tubes.
So yeah, so this thing connects to the bottom of your bag, and then you can fill bottles with the side of it. Bottles, kegs, kegs, whatever you want to do. So we're going to be releasing this in the next few days. Weeks. I don't know.
Whenever we get the pictures and every content up. So.
Yeah, we're
whenever we have time to do anything.
there are only a few of us.
Martin asked, will there be another 4-day session IPA kit?
Oh, man.
Session IPA was made with a Kevek, which also happens to be the yeast strain that we use in the pumpkin ale. So that one isn't quite a 4-day, but it still goes pretty darn fast. It's like 4 or 5 day.
Yeah.
What's the Kevek pipeline looking like?
So, incredibly exciting yeast strain. It's been commercially around for a few years now, but making beers that can get to terminal gravity in under 24 hours is incredibly impressive, in particular when there aren't byproducts. Like, it just doesn't taste bad. So I'm really excited about making a lot of beers with Kevek. When brewing with Kevek, you want to use more non-yeast profile specific styles. Like, for example, the pumpkin. We're doing Kevek in the pumpkin because it's pumpkin and spices, right?
Flavor forward.
Exactly. Hazy IPAs, amazing use of Kevek because you are, you're just looking for all those hops. Sessions, another great one because you got hops and you want it to be done fast and it will be ready to go so quickly. When we're gonna do another one? This thing.
Yeah.
Whenever we get this.
Just to give probably maybe too much information, we did a test where we just brewed all our kind of original 6-maker kits with Kevek, and they all came out pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So if you check out the DIY section of our store, you're able to purchase Kevek packs if you kind of want to swap yeast and just give it a go. You'll have to reach out.
No, just do a DIY recipe and choose Voss Kevek as the profile.
Yeah, or what's confusing here is if
Yeah.
you want to run a future using a Kevek, you need to run a Kevek fermentation schedule. So you could literally just run the Backyard IPA as an option, or you can go into the DIY section of the app if you haven't really experimented in there. You might be a little intimidated by it. But what you can do is the first step you do is you choose what yeast you're using, and that kind of sets your schedule for the rest of the brew. So there are a couple ways to go about it, but you know, the Backyard Session IPA is a start because that's one of the standard IPA dry hopped Kevek recipes. Yep. Let's see. Trail Rider Chris, man, I love it.
Wait. You skipped Steve's question twice now.
Steve? He's got a question about the bung. So he's talking about the brew tub bung. And does it serve any other purpose from keeping water from entering the pressure sensor channel?
No. Only thing it does.
And let's talk about there's two bungs.
Well, there's only one bung.
One bung, one drum.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We haven't really walked through whether this is a bung and this is a bung. But I believe what Steve is talking about is this little black rubber bung that goes in this little bung.
Yep.
And the intention of that is the bung hole.
Right.
That's to keep water from going into what? Talk to me about this like weird little tubage in the back because honestly, where you going?
I'm gonna get some of that Kevek stout.
All right.
So there's a pressure monitoring system on the device that plugs. So if you've ever put this thing into your machine, whenever you put it in, you notice that you have to sort of angle it in and it clicks in sort of, and there's a little barb that comes into this grommet in the back. When this builds up pressure, it all goes in here. So it lets us know if it's sealed, it lets us know how the fermentation's going, it lets us know everything. One thing we noticed was that sometimes when we were doing our test brews, initially when we were coming out the system, when you pour your water in, it splashes over into this little area over here. And if you can see there's like a little tunnel, there's a little tube in there. If you fill that all up, it's possible to get water and actually wort and whatnot to go back into the pressure system, and then that sort of messes with things.
So to be technical, Steve, you incorrectly used the term bung. There's the dongle coming out of the back of the machine that goes into this bung, and then this is the plug.
We do call this one the plug-in. But yeah, so this is, if you ever look
Potato,
at it,
tomato.
yeah, if you ever look at it really closely, there's two really small grooves to the side, and that's enough for the gas to pass through. So the CO2 is able to get released, and it's able to get measured, but it's very difficult to pour a full pitcher of water down into that area. So you can take it out if you want to and clean with it, and if you are careful when you pour the water in, you don't need it in there. If you lose it, it's not the end of the world, but we do recommend leaving it in there during normal use.
All right, I'm gonna ask. We got one. We're not gonna go too deep into the weeds here, but we have one international question. Can you guys give me just a quick summary of where we are on international?
Sure.
We have shipped Canada.
Yep.
We are where with EU?
So we've shipped Canada, we're shipping Mexico. EU is, so we got a quote back for that container.
Yes.
And it is about 10 times the cost of normal shipping of containers. So what we're doing now is scrambling to get inventory from the States sent to the EU instead of inventory from China, because all of that problem for international shipping is coming out of China.
And we're going to get you what your solutions are relatively soon. We've got a tailored email for each region coming out pretty soon. It does not help anything to email customer service asking questions. I get all of the emails, and I already answer like hundreds a week. So these ones just pile up, and really they just sort of slow us down because we need to respond.
That was we love you, but.
Yes. We're doing our best, and we just don't have the answer just yet.
And then honestly, anyone who's not working in a space that deals with sort of international logistics right now, I don't know another way to put it than it's kind of a shit show. Just for some context, there are something like 300 and God knows how many container ships sitting outside the port of Long Beach right now because there's no one there to unload them. A container that used to cost us just a year ago $4,000 to go from China or Thailand or wherever it is to the States now costs around $25,000. So this is not, unfortunately we kind of have had to focus on our domestic business and have kind of kicked the can down the road, probably too much. So first and foremost, we absolutely, I'm looking into the camera for this. We absolutely apologize for the delays on international shipments, but I'd say this last 2 years between tariffs,
COVID.
and then COVID repercussions have probably been some of the worst years for international shipping and logistics that have ever existed. I mean, come on. Anyway, in the last long time. So we're doing everything we can to get you your units. We're hoping to get you some options. EU being the very first group that we're trying to address because they're the easiest to address because of Amazon and shipping logistics. But we're going to send you some options, and then the rest of the, let's call those, I mean, now we're talking about like Brazil and Saudi Arabia and kind of some of our
We have one guy in Greenland.
We're
If
gonna,
you're
I'm
in
gonna bring
Kuwait.
that one to you personally.
Yeah.
We do have someone in Kuwait. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
someone in Kuwait. It's very difficult to ship it there, and some of your countries make it very difficult for us to ship things to you at all.
Don't point any fingers, Matt.
Not saying Kuwait does that. I'm saying some
but-
countries.
So yeah, so basically we're hoping to get you some answers pretty soon. I'd say within the next week or two, we're gonna get you kind of what our plan is and what some of the options are because, like we said, shipping increases, there's tariffs, there's all sorts of crazy stuff that's gone on the last 2 years. But we're gonna get there, we promise, and we're very, very sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, Bugsy, dude, we're sorry. Like you're not overwhelming us. We haven't been great at communicating. We apologize, but like it's also, I don't know. I feel like we're in the middle of battle right now, so it's kind of a shit show. Let's go to better question or more fun questions. Sorry.
Sorry, your questions were absolutely valid.
Completely valid. You paid for something. We should get it to you.
Yeah.
We really want.
Trail Rider Chris had some wild questions about like additions. He's talking about aseptic fruit purees, and then he's like, I make a ginger lemon. I use lemons and ginger.
Yeah.
In a blender. In a blender thing. Also pistachios. Keep them coming, Trail Rider Chris.
Nice.
Like
Nice.
basically, all right. Let's talk about fruits. I guess raw or aseptic in this sense. So purees. When do those go into the process? First of all, yeah, you can add whatever you want, but there are some guidelines.
Yeah, so the awesome thing about aseptic purees, so they've already gone through a pasteurization process, so you can put them in during the dry hop step.
Perfect.
Easy peasy. That said, all aseptic purees are purees of fruit that have gone through pasteurization. Beer maker puts your stuff through pasteurization. So you can skip the aseptic purees and just make a regular puree with apples or whatever from the grocery store.
What about coffee?
Yeah, coffee too. So coffee itself is acidic. You don't need to pasteurize it. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You can just put it directly into your beer. You can do it in the dry hop step. You can do it in the brewing step. Would not recommend in the brewing step because there's a lot of oxygen and all kinds of stuff that can, oxidize the coffee. Best to do that as a dry hop addition. Do a little cold brew press, pour it in, and it's great. We have an article on the app for it.
Yeah, we're actually, to your point, Mr. Trail Rider, we're making a lot of content about specific customization. I think the other day we shot dry fruit, oh Christ, spices, something else. We got like 4 or 5 more. Poor Jake's back there sweating right now because he's got like 40 videos to make. But what we really want to do is make sure that we create a lot of awesome content for you to help you. Like if I want to use wet hops or pineapple or God knows what, we want to make sure that you've got some guidelines to work within. So it hopefully works.
What about money? Because sometimes people put a penny in their beer, right?
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's more of it's a thing.
Go
So
on.
right. So I believe that worked when pennies were made of copper, right?
Yeah.
And copper is aseptic, and it kills bacteria. So that can, and it can also add mineral content and metal content, ions and whatnot to your water. What those are, I don't know. That said, I always thought it was funny to see like fermenters made out of copper. It's like you're just killing your yeast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about gold, like a gold schlager or something like that? Can you make that? Can we do that?
I know nothing about Goldschlager
That all just makes me
anymore.
want to barf.
I've forgotten
I'm
everything.
having a sophomore year
I
flashbacks.
saw a steak with gold on it the other day, and I heard that gold doesn't taste like anything, so it's just a waste of the.
Let's see. Someone asked, I think it's kind of a fun one. What's the craziest beer you made in the shop?
Oh man,
P-Walk.
what is the craziest beer we made in the shop? So all right, so this is a good question for Chris, who's not here. So right now we're working on some pretty crazy holiday beers. I think one of them is juniper berries and spruce tips, and it tastes like you're drinking a pine tree. It's really, really good, but we haven't done anything like put spam in it or anything like that. But I think the holiday beer is probably it.
Holiday beers are wild. I mean, so Jake and I shoot a lot of these videos and stuff, and so I've also made beers where almost like blindfolded, just scooped whatever piles of grains into the machine and hit go, and then throw all of the leftover hops I have into the machine, hit go. That's beer. Like, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the machine. It's like, if you know what yeast you're using, you're gonna get beer. Whether the beer is good or not is entirely up to you. And you know, yeah, beer.
Yeah.
I'd say the strangest one, well, not the strangest, the most unique one I think I've seen was the Lucky Charm beer.
Oh God, people went wild with the Lucky Charms and the Nutella. People got a little weird on the Chubby Stout. I feel like there was a lot of.
It was Philip.
Yeah, Philip.
Yeah.
Philip checking in the chat, putting all sorts of weird shit in his Chubby Stout. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the fun, right? You can do whatever you want. I mean, I grew a really sad small amount of hops in my garden this year, and they were kind of like, I don't remember which ones they were. But I put it into our Citra Smash kit, and it plugged the shit out of the valves. But I just like every day I go in and massage them and get it flowing. So we'll see how that turns out. Who knows? Somebody asked.
Is somebody like anonymous? Is that?
No, I'm having to scan back the long questions. Somebody asked. Favorite kits. Give me your favorite kits real quick down the line.
Oh my god! All right, so it comes and goes by season. Patio is my favorite this summer. It's still tops. I want to do some things at patio. I want to make it a little more bitter. I don't know if
don't change patio, but
no, I mean personally.
That's kind of that's the fun bit.
Yeah, no, I want to add like more bittering hops to it. Like that's such an incredible beer. So patio, Future, and Chubby are probably my top three.
I think the Citra Smash has been like my number one favorite kit. I also happen to just like leave that in the fridge for 2 months because I have.
Yeah.
So I mean, we talked about this a little earlier, but I've got this is not what we talked about. I have 2 basins in my machine or 2 machines in my basement.
2 basements.
No worries,
Have another
guys.
beer, Brett.
I have 2 machines in my basement, and there was a period where I was just like back to back, both machines, and production was far outpacing consumption, and so I had like 5 or 6 bags of beer just sitting in my fridge, untapped, on anything, just kind of floating there. And so I brought out a Citra that had probably been sitting in my fridge and conditioning for, call it 2.5 months, and it was just like, it was beautiful. Once I gave it those couple days to kind of settle back down, once I switched to the tap, tasted amazing. It was super, super clear. Just kind of generally fired up about it. Here's a question that I just thought of. We still drink beer that isn't made in our machines. So talk to me about some of your beers that you're into right now that you'd like to try to modify into the machine.
All right, so
Matt, go
Well, actually, no, I could, because like of all of us, so I don't drink a ton, but I mean, I don't have like great taste in beer either. So if anybody's noticed in the email customer service, if you've got questions about flavor or recipes, I pass
he gives
it
them
off.
to me.
But Matt's also the smartest person we know, so he's kind of the guy you want to be answering your technical questions.
Right.
But the type of beer that I've really wanted that we have not been able to hit yet is a sour. Because sour is one of the ones I like a lot. A sour, or also like a Goza. Yeah. Those are 2 styles that we haven't quite done yet.
To do them authentically, you need a pH meter.
Yeah, and it's something that we just haven't quite put into the system just yet. We did try with a Philly sour yeast, which I think we sell the Philly sour.
We do sell
yeast.
Philly sour. That requires a lot of manipulation. Really, you got to pitch like a quarter of a packet of that in order for it to develop right.
Exactly, but that's the flavor that I'm like, that I would personally like to have a shoot for a couple of as well. I didn't say which one of these ones I like the most. I think I like the hazy, like the Future.
Future.
It's
Future hits pretty hard.
It's hard not to.
Most
Yeah.
chewy,
It
like,
does
most
well
flavor.
early too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Someone asked about kind of clarity in beer, and unfortunately the best answer for clarity in beer is you can use gelatins, you can use a bunch of additions to kind of help, but just giving it time is
Yeah.
is the best way to really clarify a beer.
Yeah, we haven't come out with the official clarification, recommendation yet. So like we could do gelatin, we could do biofine.
Yeah, we've got some work to do on the clarification front. But yeah, time's the easiest one.
Yeah.
I had to go to California a few times, so I've been like in that Chico area. So I've been hitting Russian River. I had this beer out of, what's up to El Segundo Brewery, clear as fuck IPA. So I'm just kind of into
That is the actual name of the beer.
Oh yeah, no, it's
CAF IPA.
Clear AF IPA.
Nice.
But then like Russian River, they got Blind Pig, they got Pliny, and all of those are just like super light in body, really, really heavy hops, just kind of really like the opposite of the hazy question earlier, but just like really, really clear, crisp IPAs. That's kind of what I've been searching for. There's a couple in Colorado here. There's the Lucid AF. Who makes that?
That's Liquid Mechanics.
Liquid Mechanics. Yeah. So yeah, I've been kind of bouncing around looking for some clear IPAs, but the shelf is pretty well dominated by the hazy Sons of Guns.
Yeah, it's easy. So for me, I've been taking it upon myself to only drink Beer Maker beer over the past I think month 4 now. Of that said, whenever I go out and I'm around, I'm gravitating towards pilsners. One of my personal favorites is a local from Post Brewery in Boulder.
Yeah, that one's solid.
Yeah, Howdy Pills. That is phenomenal. There are a couple other pills upslope, also in Boulder. They have this Rocky Mountain. That was Rocky Mountain Kolsch with the sage.
Yeah,
I like that one. Yeah, a lot.
The
as
upslope
well.
one.
Yeah, but still, like I'm moving big time into pilsners. I'm coming out of that season, getting more into these big multi-fall beers. But
we're kind of out of the light stuff. But yeah, no, I second the fact that like so much of craft brew is super heavy, super hoppy, super everything, but it's nothing like just a cold Pils or
a big yellow beer.
1664.
1554.
15 Kronenborg or Carlsberg or something.
Yeah. No, we're mixing the numbers.
Yeah, so we gotta make sure that we're hitting that stuff too. I'm scrolling through. We're gonna
the brewery question.
Which one's that? Oh, are we gonna work with breweries? Yes. If you're a brewery and you're watching, probably not. But reach on out. It's one of those bandwidth things. Like we want nothing more than to get machines in the hands of breweries here locally, or some of our favorites out of state, wherever. But yeah.
The way we want to work with breweries specifically, and this is different from other machines, is we want you to use our machine and develop a recipe on it. We don't want to try to clone one of your beers and then send it to you and have you be disgusted by our trying to do it. We didn't brew your beer. Like, you brewed your beer. We want you to be happy with it. So if you're a brewery or you know a brewery, tell them to talk to us, because we'll send them machines and we want them to develop their own beer on our system. So it comes out exactly like they expect.
Oh, for sure. No, and we're going to go ahead and mobilize the beer maker community here, but if you guys know any brewers your favorite breweries that make a kick-ass stout or an IPA or whatever it might be, send them our way. We're open to having a conversation, because what we really want to do is, especially with the kind of smaller regional breweries, if they're not selling beer outside their city, state, whatever it might be, like, this is an awesome opportunity to get their beers in front of people all over the country. So send them our way.
Philip wants to know if they can send us beers.
What do you mean, Philip?
Sure. If you
where do you live, Philip? You want to just come drink beers one day?
Yeah, just come over. Also, you have to label them yeast samples in order for the post office not to confiscate them.
This is not legal advice.
Condoy Creeks, holiday beers. Any plans for Creeks?
Oh man,
I don't know what that is.
not right now, but
Sorry, come on.
it's a beer maker and you can brew your own for sure.
Yeah, man, go for it.
But
Brewdog
there's some
Pumpkin
really weird stuff coming out of here for holiday beers. Just stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I spent some time in Denmark, and there's like a pre-holiday holiday where the holiday beer comes out, which is just like a fun day where a bunch of spiced kegs show up to every pub, and every 19-year-old in Copenhagen is just having a ball.
Yeah.
Good day.
Should we note that some of the beers are seasonal? I'm just saying that like I think we might have surprised some people with like some beers disappearing, like the
Oh
Ursa.
yeah, well, that's true.
Well,
And
no, so we have some beers
session.
that are gonna be pretty well seasonal, and then other ones that are gonna. I mean, I don't know. Now we're getting too far in the weeds, but we're gonna have ones that maker kits are standard, right? So like patio pills ain't going anywhere. That's gonna be a standard kit from here on out.
I may make it more bitter, but
TBD.
But like the pumpkin's gonna be here for a limited
Pumpkin
time.
is very much a seasonal. Backyard was a seasonal. We kind of phased that one out. So we're gonna work them in and out of the rotation, but you can always kind of recreate a lot of those recipes in the DIY section.
yeah, and send us an email too if you want help doing that. We're happy to help you make whatever recipe you love that's not available.
We had some barley wine and wheat wine questions. I don't really know how to answer those.
Nice. What kind?
That just like
Barley-
barley wine, wheat wine question mark.
Yes,
Can
you
we?
do that. That's so right. So that comes back to the double mash. Once we get, send us an email, support@beermaker.com. We will build a barley wine and you can brew it and it will be amazing.
All right, dudes. I'm gonna cut this thing.
All right.
We're running out of questions. That was fun.
Yeah.
3X. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah.
Chair-based Tregs makes a mad elf.
Oh yeah,
Alright, we're gonna do
that
research
one,
as you
that
call
one
it,
for
we'll get
sure,
to it.
for sure. That was an incredible beer.
But thanks everybody. We're gonna do another one of these. I don't know, a month or so. Shoot, support at, or maybe just like if you guys start a thread in the blog, the Beer Maker Owners Group, we will probably watch it. But as far as new subjects, we're happy to kind of crowdsource those and see what you guys want to hear about. So
Yeah.
shoot us a note.
Yeah, and speaking of the blog, they are a great resource if you want simple questions.
Beer makers, owners.
Yeah, sorry, we call it the Bog. It's the Facebook
Oh,
Beer Maker Owners Group. They have a ton of super passionate, super fired up brewers who have basically figured out everything that we know.
Yeah.
Go there, ask them questions. They're super nice. They're super supportive. But yeah, they're a really awesome resource for new brewers.
Come to follow us on everything.
And follow us on all the things: Instagram, the YouTube, Facebook.
We have a Twitter.
We have a Twitter,
We do?
technically.
We do have
We
a
even
Twitter.
have a, for there are any 14-year-olds out there, we've got a TikTok. Anyway.
Okay.
And we're done. So thanks guys. Holler at